Hey everybody, Professor Steins here, and today I'm going to kind of make a video about jQuery AJAX method. So in class, everybody kind of talks about how difficult it can be when using pure HTML. When you want to change a menu section, you want to change maybe your header section, and you have 12 pages built, and you have to change all 12 pages to kind of keep up. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of handle that scenario, and this video is going to kind of talk about maybe this way as being one of those. I also kind of will mention things like PHP and server side coming into play, which we do kind of require a little bit here to get started. So first thing I'm going to do is just going to kind of create a folder out here for AJAX testing. AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. And so it's kind of a way that we can load resources with JavaScript, insert them into a page. And we're going to kind of do that. So I'm just kind of making an index.html, kind of start from really the beginning. I'll keep it pretty simple. I'm also going to open this guy up in command line and run it under HTTP server, which if you've never used this before, this is Node coming into play. So I just need to kind of call it up with my local host. It's just sort of a blank page. Well, it was. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing. If you've never used that before, first you probably need to look up Node. It's kind of a web server based on JavaScript. It's really kind of neat to play around with and test with, although I probably would use PHP in production, just know it a little bit better. npm HTTP server will get you here, and it's just basically a way of throwing up a static website. So you'll have to run that command first, but then once you do that, you can run HTTP server. It'll kind of kick it up and see my get and posts. So anyway, long story short, let's take it for a little bit of a drive and just throw some stuff in here to get started. Body tag, closing body tag. So you can make that a little bit bigger. Let's put a container out here to put in some output. I'm going to need a script tag to point to the jQuery content delivery network, and I'll need a script tag for kind of my own JavaScript. I'm just going to kind of inline it here, although it should probably be in its own file. Document.getReady function is kind of the getting started of the page, just going to kind of kick everything up and make sure that it works. So let's see, have not put that in yet, so it should not work quite yet. I just need to get the jQuery CD in. That should take us here. I'm going to go with 2.x version, and you can open it in a new tab, or you can take the inload from there, but you kind of just can copy this address to it and paste it right in. So it's not working now. It's probably freaking out. Let's see if it works better this time. There we go. Good. It does look right. Let's looks like the server kind of froze up there. Let's run that again. HTTP server. Alright. I guess it just kind of froze up there and freaked out a little bit. Alright, so basically one of the benefits is I'm going to take a second file, call this one header.htm, and let this guy actually contain just the HTML that I might want to apply into the header part of the page. So h1 tag, testing AJAX loads. This might also be where I kind of want to put my menu to, maybe a nav section. Two and three. So I'm going to look back at, seems like we lost our page. So I'm not necessarily worried about the click button. I want this guy to load when the page loads. So this is kind of the function I'm looking at, although I'm going to kind of write it a little bit differently. And that's just to $.ajax with brackets inside, semicolon. I'm kind of going to break it up a little bit like this. Basically, AJAX method is going to pass in some settings inside the brackets. And it's going to be the settings, kind of going to be a comma separated list with kind of this JSON format. So type is going to be a get statement. The data type is going to be HTML. My fingers just not want to work this morning. URL is going to be our header.htm file. And when that is successful, we'll want to execute a function and pass that data in. And no comma on the end of this one. So just to kind of make sure it works, I'm going to throw something down at the console and see if we get any data out of it. So should get something. There's something there. So let's run it one more time. Hopefully it won't freeze up this time. Right click and inspect. And you're probably pretty used to seeing the element inspector, but there's a console tab as well. So if I flip over to that, I can see that the index page is kind of calling from this function that data, and that's kind of what's getting returned. So instead of just bugging it down on the console, let's attach it to the output at the top. That's pound out, and set the HTML equal to data, or well, what's in data. So that's pretty neat. Kind of gets some stuff going. Another thing that you could do is you could load other files as well. So if you're kind of working on something and it's kind of like some data that you want to crunch, a CSV file, comma separated values, that might be a good file to kind of use. So I'm going to call one, just kind of make a quick one called schools.csv, and right click and edit that in Notepad++. It's one of the reasons why I like having file extensions shown. It's just easy to change different text files around. So let's throw in some school addresses and separate those by comma. So first one will be a URL and then the name of the college or university. And it's a public school. www.columbus State. Diversity private. Columbus State, UGA. Get the idea though. University of Georgia. Public. So let's look back at our index page, and we already kind of have something set to out. This bracket kind of ends that AJAX call. Well, let's call it maybe a second one. AJAX brackets, semicolon on the end, drop those guys down a little bit. This is also going to be a get. And the data type here, rather, is not going to be HTML. We're just going to call this text. The URL to it is going to be our schools.csv. And when that is successful, well, I'm going to execute a function, pass that data through. And same as before, let's just throw it down on the console and take a look at what's returned. Unexpected syntax error, line 28, that's what occurred. Success function data, semicolon, what am I missing here? Comma instead of a period. There we go. That should fix it. So that's kind of what gets thrown down on the console. It's just kind of one big deal. But let's see if we can't split that up a little bit and display it a little bit better on the page, at least. So let's comment that out. So best way to approach this would probably be starting with some kind of maybe output variable, setting it to something that we can see. Maybe inside like an H3 tag or something. I'm just going to throw it inside of a list as well. Once that's kind of our string on the way out. So it's one big file, and the file consists of lots of rows of text. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to split this file up based on each line. So I want to break these guys down at least into 4 so that there's kind of 4 things there. And to do that, I'm going to call a variable rows, or set of variable rows, and take the data and split that by the new line character, which is /n. So let's see what happens if I throw out rows on the console after that. Let's take a quick look and see if there's a difference. What you're going to see is this is a representation of an array. An array is left bracket and right bracket separated by commas. So there's 4 things in the array separated by commas. You have to kind of look at where these guys go. So this and this is the first one. So each row, I guess to illustrate that a little bit better, inside of a for loop, and for I'll set a variable called I, and that's 0, I is less than rows.length. Each time we run through this loop, we'll go up on I by 1. Take some of this extra junk out. So if I were to document.write rows sub I. That's the where I, this variable, is equal to the array that we're jumping through. And we'll add a break tag afterward at least. Let's see what we get. So document.write did kind of messed up the page a little bit. Better way to do it, but at least we did kind of throw that stuff out there. And there's break tag in between. I guess really what we should be doing is we should be adding this guy to the string out variable. So string out plus equals, and really kind of stick this guy inside of an li. But maybe and let's throw it out on the page. Gonna have to close our UL statement up there from line 30. Oop, fingers just not want to work today. Out.append str out. And let's throw rows sub I back in there. Get all my quotation marks right, and plus sign there. String out plus equals to right now an li, throwing in the row. That should work. Should get a bulleted list kind of in our page now. So that's pretty cool. We could break it up even further if we wanted to make separate the columns out as well. We could do that inside the for loop. If our columns is equal to rows sub I, and we're going to want to split that one just like we did on new line, but this time with a comma instead, comma separated values. So if I wanted to, I have to make this string out variable a little bit more complex, I think. So I'm going to kind of start over a little bit more with it. Give me some lines to stick it together. List item, hyperlink tag, maybe target equals underscore blank. Close that A tag here, LI tag maybe. Yeah. So what I want inside the href is going to be call sub 0. That's the first item in this comma separated list, which was the URL. And then after inside the A tag, I want the second calls, which is the school's name. And then perhaps after the A tag, we'll put a dash and then add call sub 2, which should be private or public. Yeah, I think that looks good. Or not. Line 34 seems kind of got a bug. Not properly. Didn't put another quotation mark there. Let's see. I think I'm good everywhere else. STR not defined. Oh, silly me. Out. Outs. Outs. And don't need that one. Call is not defined. Calls. There we go. So I should be able to kind of click the different page things and load the external deal. The reason why you might want to do that is that it's kind of would be hard to come in and actually trying to change all that data hard coded in. So it's kind of good that you got it out in a different file. You just want to kind of add a new something to it. Princeton. It might not even be their domain. Let's go with something I know. Valdosta. So it's kind of adding a new school, a new list item would just be editing your data source, really, or sort of changing your menu structure across many pages. Might be more condensed down to one file and maybe shared across a different across your website. I don't know why the second part didn't work. Yeah. You gotta be careful though, because if I right click and view source behind here, there's actually no markup in the page, so it might look like my HTML is valid, and to be honest, I'm not really sure if it is. I'm pretty sure it is, but if I had missed even kind of this character right here, it might throw off, might not be valid code that I'm sending. That's kind of one of the reasons why I don't like Wix websites. And coming back full circle to the Keith McDonald Plumbing website. It's now a Wix website, and that's kind of the problem I have behind it, is that this is sort of the approach that they're taking. There's a lot of stuff in the meta section, of course. Most everything is all in JavaScript. So there's not really a lot in there to know if you have good code or not. You're just going to have to presume it is. If I look down in the body section, there's really nothing there. So I sometimes kind of wonder about the accessibility, if Wix websites kind of have that built in or not. So anyway, hope that was kind of neat. Hope the video wasn't too long, and